Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the press and all those sitting in the gallery. As you're all aware, yesterday the Foreign Affairs Committee issued their report of its review into the Foreign Commonwealth Office and the UK overseas territories. I will proceed subsequent to that, to the release of that report. The People's Democratic Movement issued a report yesterday morning, a release yesterday morning addressing the report. Last night, the Premier of the Turks and Caicos Islands addressed the nation, and subsequent to that, we also issued a release last night responding to comments that he made. And I believe members of the press should have copies of both those statements. We will now proceed to read a statement, following which we will open the floor for questions from the press. On July 6, 2008, yesterday, the Foreign Affairs Committee finally submitted the report of its review of the Foreign Commonwealth Office and its overseas territories. In more than one press conference earlier this year, we recounted the role of the committee and the process leading up to the reports issued yesterday. We will repeat that process again here today to ensure clarity of the public. On July 5, 2007, a year ago, the Foreign Affairs Committee announced an inquiry into the overseas territories. The committee indicated that it will inquire into the exercise by the Foreign and Commonwealth Office of its responsibilities into the overseas territories and the FCO's achievement against strategic policy number 10, the security and good governance of the overseas territories. In particular, the inquiry was to focus on standards of governance in the overseas territories, the role of governors and other office holders appointed by or on the recommendation of the United Kingdom government, the work of the Overseas Territories Consultative Council, transparency and accountability in the overseas territories, regulation of the financial services sector in the overseas territories, procedures for amendment of the Constitution of the overseas territories, the application of international treaties, conventions, and other agreements to the overseas territories, human rights in the overseas territories, and the relationship between the overseas territories and the United Kingdom Parliament. The process that took place was that the committee initially opened its doors for submissions and invited submissions from citizens and residents and those that have information concerning all of the overseas territories. And those submissions were originally supposed to be submitted in writing by October 2007. In November 2007, the official opposition met with members of the Foreign Affairs Committee and were able to encourage them to extend the deadline to January 31st, 2008. We also highlighted concerns that we had with the government, with the operation of the overseas territories during that meeting. In December 2007, the committee took oral evidence from leaders of the governments of the overseas territories. The committee also extended its deadline to January 31st, 2008 to receive submissions. In March 2008, the committee traveled to the Turks and Caicos Islands to meet with civic and social leaders, businessmen and women, members of government and opposition, persons that had written submissions, and other key stakeholders in the Turks and Caicos Islands. Yesterday, the committee issued its final report. Yesterday morning, the People's Democratic Movement also issued a release to the media on our initial response to that report. Last evening, the Premier of the Turks and Caicos Islands issued a misguided statement, and subsequent to that, we issued a release responding to his comments. It is our understanding that the report will now take its process where members of the UK government have an opportunity to respond to the report and to make a decision on recommendations that were made in that report. For the benefit of those that have not seen the report, we seek to inform the general public that there were a number of issues that were raised in the report. The commissioners in their report spoke to corruption in the Turks and Caicos Islands, and in paragraph 7, they said, "We are very concerned by the serious allegations of corruption we have received from the Turks and Caicos Islands. They are already damaging TCI's reputation, and there are signs that they may soon begin to affect the island's tourism industry. There is also a great risk that they will damage the UK's own reputation for promoting good governance. Unlike the Cayman Islands, where the governor has taken the initiative in investigations, the onus has been placed on local people to substantiate the allegations in TCI. This approach, they have said, is entirely inappropriate given the palpable climate of fear on Turks and Caicos. In such an environment, people will be afraid to publicly come forward with evidence. We conclude that the UK government must find a way to assure people that a formal process with safeguards is underway, and therefore recommend that it announces a commission of inquiry with full protection for witnesses. The change in governor occurring in August represents an opportunity to restore trust, and we recommend that the commission of inquiry should be announced before the new governor takes up his office." The commissioners also spoke to the climate of fear in the Turks and Caicos Islands, where in paragraph 49 of the report, it says, "As we have already explained in paragraphs 127 to 131 above, many of the submissions we received were sent to us in confidence, and so we were not able to quote from them. Where we do quote from individual Turks and Caicos Islanders in this report, we have received the explicit permission to do so. In what follows, we make significant use of a public submission from the Leader of the Opposition in TCI, Honorable E. Floyd Seymour. However, we wish to emphasize that many of his allegations were supported by evidence submitted to us in confidence from across TCI's community. Witnesses alleging corruption range from belongers to expat work permit holders, from church leaders to representatives of the business community." In paragraph 174,